of Talkdesk. He's also a former student of our university. I want you to give a warm welcome to Tiago Paiva.
Okay, so my name is Tiago, as you said, and I started Talkdesk 4 years ago. Before that, I studied in the same university in Tagus Park, so for everyone that studied there, it's still a pretty cool university to join. My degree was in computer networks, so I don't think we have this degree here in this side of the campus, but that's where I studied. After college, when we decided to start Talkdesk, we had the option to go find a normal job or actually start a company, and we decided to go start a company, and that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the story of Talkdesk, some key moments we had during the last 4 years, and then I'm open for any questions, anything you guys want to talk about, happy to answer anything. If you want to talk more about engineering, I might not be the best person to talk about that, but happy to chat, talking about business, fundraising, anything, just let me know. Okay, so first, what is Talkdesk? So the idea of Talkdesk is we want to be able to allow any company to create a call center in 5 minutes. So the idea is you go to a website, you put your username, you put your password, you sign up, and suddenly you have a call center. You can do this from any computer, any country in the world. We have customers in 50 plus countries. Some of our customers are big airline corporations like Hainan Airlines, that you probably never heard, but it's a big Chinese airline. Others like Fitbit and Dropbox and Box that everyone has heard of. And we have everything from small companies like 2-3 person company, and big companies like American Airlines and some big Portuguese corporations as well. This is our team in San Francisco. We have 90 people in San Francisco. This is the lobby of the office. Most people there work either in sales, support, customer success, marketing. We have some engineers there, but not that many. And pretty much is all the teams that sell and support the customer. On the Portuguese side, which is a lot more fun than the San Francisco side, it's pretty much all engineers and support. So this is a pretty fun group of people. And I mean, by the way, I need to say that we are hiring, so whoever wants to join, feel free to apply. But most of the team here is engineering. And Talkdesk started in Portugal by 2 engineers. And the first 10, 15 people, we were all engineers from this university. And then it started growing. And I'll go a little bit through that process. Okay, everything started in 2011. I finished the degree in 2010. I was working for a company called Procter & Gamble. We used to sell like Gillette and Teed and other brands that everyone knows about. And I was working there in the finance department. And I had the option to let's pursue a career in Procter or somewhere else, or decide to start my own company. And the decision was very easy at that point because I don't know if anyone from Procter is here, but I kind of hated my job. So the decision to start the company was very easy. And by 2011, we were pretty much trying to figure out what to start, what to do, what kind of ideas. And between the end of the degree to the end of 2011, we just made up a lot of stuff. Like Talkdesk was not the first thing we've created. Before that, I remember we had a few ideas regarding pay-per-click, other ideas regarding inbound marketing. So we had a bunch of ideas, and Talkdesk was really the idea that started taking shape and becoming a business. And that happened at the TwilioCon in 2011. So at the end of 2011, when Talkdesk was born, was for a competition. So Twilio, which is a company in San Francisco, launched the competition, and the winner of that competition will win a MacBook Air. And I was living with my parents at the time. I was at home. We were making no money, so a MacBook Air was something very exciting. I mean, I didn't have a MacBook at that time, so we decided to build something, and that something was Talkdesk. And the idea was, let's build an interface. Again, what I showed before, an interface that can receive calls, make calls, and everything in one interface. So you have all the information about the person calling you in one interface. We launched Twilio. We launched at the TwilioCon. One Sunday night, I was in a Benfica game. Who's a Benfica fan here, by the way? Okay, we need more Benfica fans here. That's a problem. So I was in a Benfica game, And Twilio emailed me and said, hey, Tiago, you are invited to speak at the TwilioCon. Please be in San Francisco on Tuesday. And it was a Sunday night, and I didn't have a passport, and I had to be in San Francisco on Tuesday. So Americans, they have this thing where they think everyone lives around them. Next day, I got the passport in the airport, flew to San Francisco on a Monday night, got there on a Tuesday morning, presented Talkdesk at the Twilio conference in 2011 in the afternoon, and at the end of the day, we won the first prize. So we won the first prize at the TwilioCon, and the prize was $50,000, which, when you are 24 years old, $50,000 it's a lot of money. $50,000. We were very lucky that one of the judges in that competition was a partner at 500 Startups. 500 Startups is an incubator in San Francisco. They liked us. They liked Talkdesk, and the same day they invited us to join 500 Startups. And it's funny because that week changed everything. That week, I moved to San Francisco, so I've been living in San Francisco since that day, that week. I come on to Portugal a lot, but usually for work or vacation. Moved to San Francisco that week, and that's where Talkdesk started. And at the same week, exactly the same week, we joined 500 Startups. And 500 Startups is a program that lasts 4 months, and they bring startups from all over the world. So we had startups from Brazil, we had startups from, you name it, like everywhere, pretty much everywhere. I still think we are the only Portuguese company that joined 500 Startups ever, but we were like 30 companies, 25 were from outside the US. And this was really fun. Like for anyone wanting to start a company, I don't know how many of you want to start a company, joining an incubator is actually a life-changing event. And if anyone can apply, and if you can join 500 Startups or Y Combinator or Techstars or Seed Camp in London, it's really interesting because there's 2 things you do when you join an incubator. First, you make a lot of friends. And when you are doing this for 5, 6, 7 years, you remember like all the friends you met 4 years ago that now joined other companies that are working for Uber and Box and Dropbox. They remember you from 5 years ago, and they actually buy your product. So it's kind of good to have these kind of friends that can give you money at some point. But the second thing, you actually make very good friends. Some of my best friends are still from that time. Are still from these 4 months at 500 Startups. And the main reason is we had a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. Like we had a lot of fun. We partied a lot. We had a lot of fun. But we did work a lot. And when you have this combination of everyone's struggling, everyone is working, everyone is partying together, then you actually create a relationship that you don't have on the day-to-day. Like some of your best friends will probably be people that you meet while in university because you have to work together and actually you make friends through those relationships. So, suggestion, incubator, solely worth it. They give you some money. It seems like a lot of money in the beginning. It's not that much money, and I'll go a little bit through those details, but it's not that much money, but it allows you to start. Going back to the story, so we got the money, $50,000 from 500 Startups, and we incorporated Talkdesk in 2011, the same week exactly. So Talkdesk is actually an American company, even though all the founders are Portuguese, all the first 15, 20 employees are Portuguese. We are actually an American company. We started, our main office is in San Francisco, but the main office, it just means that we are incorporated there, and we have another office here that's a sucursal in Portugal. In the beginning of 2012, we were 3 people. It was myself, Christina, and Raul that still works with us now and is the CTO of the company. And we raised $450,000 from an angel investor. And this is interesting because raising money, and I don't know how many of you have thought about it, like raising money, there's 2 things. In the beginning, we were 1 month old or 2 months old, so we actually had no product. We had no product, we had no money. So the only thing we actually had was ourselves. And we actually raised this $450,000 via Skype on 2 phone calls. So for anyone that thinks it's very difficult to raise money to start, it's not easy, but it's possible. So through a phone call using Skype, in the beginning of 2012, we had a phone call with a guy from London, and he wired $450,000 to our bank account the next day. Which, let me tell you, when you are 20, I was 24 at the time, when you are 24 and you have an account with $500,000, it looks like you made it. You are done, you can retire, and you can go to Hawaii and have a pretty good life. The interesting thing is it takes a lot of money to build a company, a lot of money. You'll be surprised how much money it takes. And this was my first company, and hopefully it's going to be the last company. But I had these dreams that, okay, we hire 2, 3 people. We are all very smart people. Everyone is always very smart. We are very smart. We know everything. And in 6 months, Talkdesk is going to be making millions of dollars. That was the idea. Millions of dollars, and I can just get that money. And that was the dream. 6 months later, when we were actually using this money, we realized that things were not that easy. For 2 things. Actually building, and for all of you, that most of you are probably engineers, building things is actually not the most difficult thing in a company. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. It's difficult to build software. It's difficult to scale software. That's very, very hard. But in the beginning, the most challenging thing is how are you going to get money to actually pay your employees and to grow? How are you going to sell? Who's going to sell? Who's going to make the sale? So that's the challenge. So for the first 2 years, we just spent a lot of time figuring out. We also got into an industry that, as you guys can see, like call center software is not the most fun thing in the world. So it's not really something that people love. So it took us a while to actually get to a point where we could compete with the current players. I think we have, at this point, like 200 or 300 competitors. They all have been around for 15, 20 years. So it was difficult. So the first 2 years, when I thought I was going to be making millions of dollars, we were actually making $0, literally. For the first 2 years, we had no money. I remember I was living in San Francisco I got this place where they allowed me to babysit their dogs, and they gave me a room to live in San Francisco, and I stayed there for 6 months. Then I moved to San Diego, so I just went back and forth, tried to live as cheap as possible. While here in Portugal, we actually had a team building Talkdesk. And then one thing we've realized is the money actually disappears very fast. So this $450,000, that seems like a lot of money, doesn't last that long, literally, doesn't last that long. So always be careful if you one day decide to start your own company, always be careful with the amount of money you raise. Because coming from Portugal, where we know cost of living is not that expensive, when you actually expand and you need to pay commissions, you actually need to onboard people, you actually need a team to build something, money doesn't last very long. So that's a very important lesson. It doesn't seem like it, but it's the number one reason why companies die is because they run out of money, one way or the other. So it took us 2 years to actually build a product. We launched Talkdesk at TechCrunch Disrupt, and I say launched, but we actually had pretty much nothing there. It was too early. We were accepted by Tech to present at TechCrunch Disrupt in New York City. And TechCrunch, for the ones that don't know, is like the biggest tech event in the world. They have 10,000 people. They just go there to actually see pitches all day, and then they vote on the best company in the competition. We presented Talkdesk. At that point, to be honest, we had no idea what we were going to do. We had no idea about our product. We thought we had something really amazing. We didn't. And I pitched Talkdesk at the conference. We didn't win, and life might move on. You can't always win. In this case, was one of the cases where we actually were very lucky that we were accepted. But then we got there. It was literally a waste of time. We got a lot of inbound leads from customers that we could not actually support. And I don't know if it was more good than bad, but it was a great experience. Right now, it's different. We have great relationships with TechCrunch, but this event actually didn't help that much. But this was a very important point, because this was the time where Talkdesk actually started being out there. In end of 2012, beginning of 2013, that's actually when we started selling Talkdesk. So it took from October 2011 to beginning mid-2013 to actually have a product that we could sell. So if you think about it, it actually took us almost 2 years to build a product. And again, this happens a lot even in school when you think you can do something in 2 hours and actually takes 2 days, 3 days, 4 days to do it. In our case, it took 2 years to actually have a product that we could sell. 2 years to build a product, but the moment we started selling, that's when things actually took off. And started selling Talkdesk in San Francisco. I was living there. I remember I used to travel everywhere. In the first 6 months of 2013, I was like in 10, 15 different states of the United States. I got to know the country very well through all the customers, and we were able to close the first 500 customers in 1 year. So from June 2013 to June 2014, we closed 500 customers. We were making a few $1 million in revenue, and we had 7 people in the company, literally. So I was the only person in the US. I was doing sales, marketing. If we had any marketing, I was doing marketing. And then the team here in Portugal was doing everything from customer support, building the products, building the product, and building the product more and more. Because this is the problem. When you have customers, you actually have to stop. You can't do whatever you want. So in the first 2 years, you just build whatever you want because you have no one telling you anything. The moment you start having customers, things change a little bit. Because then it's not your ideas anymore, it's what customers want. And then when you have nothing, like we didn't, if someone tells you, I'll pay you $50 for you to build this, your first reaction is, okay, let's do it. It's $50, so why not? And sometimes it's not always the best thing. So we were growing 500 customers. 500 customers, 7 people in the company, or 8 people in the company around that. And in the beginning of 2014, we received investment from Jason Lemkin. And Jason Lemkin is one of the investors that's famous for their software as a service expertise. So he was the founder of EchoSign, and he was the guy that actually wrote all about sales and how to build a sales team, et cetera, et cetera. So we got the money from him. It was $3 million at that point, 3.15. And that's where actually Talkdesk in San Francisco started. At that point, we hired our first VP of sales. The first VP of sales, it's funny because we have this joke, like the first person we hired in San Francisco, the VP of sales, cost us more money than the next 15 employees after him in Portugal and San Francisco together. So the first guy actually was a huge expense. And this is the point where I say, like, you have $3.15 million in the bank and you think you have a lot of money. Again, it's not that much money. You hire the first guy. Usually these more experienced people, they are not, like we are used to do whatever it takes to be successful and we just work day and night. When you start hiring these other kinds of people, these more management types and more executive types, they actually don't help you that much from a day-to-day perspective. What they do though is they help you create a team, and that's the core. This was the core change of Talkdesk. This is when we decided, okay, we're going to be a big company. We're going to actually build a company that people will know about, and we're going to grow. And we opened the first office it wasn't in San Francisco, it was in Mountain View. We opened the first office in Mountain View. It was really, really bad office. We grew the team in 2014 to the end of 2014 to 15 people in San Francisco. And mostly sales. We had a few support people, but mostly sales, and we kept growing. We were always in a position where we were always growing, always building more product, always building more functionality, and charging more money. So we were making a lot of money at that point for the size of the team we had. At the beginning of 2015, we raised the $21 million Series A, and this is where actually you have enough money to, which again, let me be clear. Like, this seems like huge amounts of money, $21 million, $3 million. This seems like a lot of money, and it is, don't get me wrong. But when you actually have 200 people, 200 people cost a lot of money. So when we raised the $21 million, that's when we decided, okay, now we can invest in actually building a bigger company. And we opened an office in San Francisco. We have an entire floor in San Francisco, in the center of the city. We started the year with 25 people. We ended 2015 with 160, 170. It was 60 people in Portugal, 70 people in Portugal, and the others in the United States. And this is where we actually had more commitments than we had before. So what happens when you raise a Series A is you raise money from a type of investors that you cannot go back anymore. So when you raise your seed round, $3 million is actually still very friendly. They give you the money, they trust you, and they let you do your own thing, and you move on. If it fails, it fails. For them, $3 million is not that much. When you raise $21 million, then that's a different conversation. That's where you actually have a board of directors, where you actually have 3 or 4 people in a room that you have to meet every 6 weeks, that you actually have to explain yourself to, and you actually have to, it's not like they are my boss, but they have more power than an average person will have. And this was a big change, and I have it here as the last big milestone. But one thing with the money is worth nothing if you can't actually use the money to do something good. And money doesn't matter if you don't hire the right team. Money doesn't matter if you don't build the right product. Money doesn't matter if you can't actually multiply the money, because that's what they want. What they want is for me to take these $21 million and make them $200 million, $300 million, or whatever their numbers are. And this is the point where you actually need to have an exit plan. And the exit plan is not selling. It doesn't necessarily mean selling. But for us, for Talkdesk, our goal is actually to go public. We want to be a public company. We are growing our revenue to a point where in 2 or 3 years we can actually go public. We'll have, 1,000 people in the company, 500 people in the company, who knows? But the goal is really to build a big company. The challenges we have, and let me talk a little bit about engineering now, so just not boring stuff about business. The challenges we have in engineering, but overall, is how do we actually scale a company? And this was my first time doing it. I've never done this before. And you make a lot of mistakes, but the main things is when you start getting to a point where you actually decide that the company is going to be a big company, you have to make two decisions, and you have to make a choice. The first thing is, am I willing to pay what needs to be paid to actually bring the right people on board? And that's a shift that you actually have to make and say, look, to actually build this company, I don't need 10 people, I actually need 200 people, I need 150 people. And once you make that decision, there's actually no turning back. And if there's something I've learned, getting together, hiring the right people in the right areas, it's actually the most important thing you can do. So, for example, on the engineering side, a problem we had is we have 1,000+ customers now. We were having 2,000 calls or 1,000 calls a year ago. Right now we have per hour, and now we are having 13, 14, 15, or almost 20,000 calls per hour. So you can imagine that actually scaling a system that handles 1,000 calls in 1 hour to actually scaling to 20,000 calls in an hour, it's completely different things. There's 20x the complexity, and when you add more complexity and more customers and more functionality, it's a recipe for disaster. So we had a lot of challenges. We had to grow the team very fast, and when you hire fast, you make a lot of mistakes. In San Francisco, for example, when we hired the first 10, 15 salespeople, it was a huge mistake. And when we moved from Mountain View to San Francisco, we kind of replaced a few of the members of the team and replaced the VP of sales. And those mistakes cost you a lot of money. If you think about, you have this amount of money, like $20 million, and this $20 million will last 2 years. If you make a 6-month mistake, then you don't have 2 years, you have a year and a half. And now, I don't know if you guys read the news, but there's all these storms coming from Silicon Valley that the VCs are pulling off investment is not there. So it's very, very important for you to actually keep an eye on where you spend the money. And the mistakes you make can come in many different ways. Can come from making the wrong decision on the product side, losing an important customer, not keeping an important customer, not closing an important customer, investing too much in sales, investing too little in engineering, or the opposite. So actually there's all these decisions you have to make every single day. Again, an easy way for you to do that, and all of you will probably be starting your first company, it's really get together with people that have done it before. So make sure you always hire people that have some kind of experience. Because the challenges, there are really a lot of challenges, a lot of nights that you're probably not going to sleep, a lot of travel you have to make, a lot of people you have to convince about your dream, because you can't pay them. In the beginning, you have no money, so you actually have to convince people how to join the company. For example, a good way is the way we hired Raul, I don't know if Raul is here. No, he's not here. So Raul is our CTO, and is pretty much a founder of the company. He joined Talkdesk. We were 1 month into it, and it's funny because we hired Raul through Twitter. He tweeted something, whoa, Talkdesk just started, this is amazing, it's a Portuguese company. And I replied and said, hey Raul, do you want to join Talkdesk? And he said yes, and the next day he joined Talkdesk. And that's how it worked. And I only saw Raul 4 months later when he actually visited me in San Francisco, and it was the first time we met. So think about a person like Raul that had a secure job, he was a great engineer, and he actually left everything behind to actually start Talkdesk. Luckily, Talkdesk worked out, but the chances were actually very, very, very low. So in the beginning, there's a lot of risk, and there's a lot of join us, because at some point, we're going to be a big company. And you keep doing that. Everyone that joins Talkdesk, we tell them the kind of company we want to build. And again, we are all there to actually build a great company, build a big company, do amazing things. Sometimes will be easier, sometimes will be harder. But in the end, like if you get a group of people that actually want to build something amazing and do something great, then it's very, very fun. And then it's like, it feels like you are actually not working. It feels like you're just having fun. Again, it's not always easy, don't get me wrong. If any of you join Talkdesk, don't think it's going to be a walk in the park. It's not going to be a walk in the park. It's going to be hard. A lot of people will demand from you, but in the end, like, we believe we are doing something very interesting and using technology that can actually do something very, very important. Okay, so I'll stop talking. I can talk about anything now. If there's any specific questions, anyone wants to talk, I hope someone asks questions, or else it's pretty weird. But any questions, any topics you guys want to talk about, beginning, the end?
Well, congratulations on your company. It's amazing to see your story. It's quite inspiring. I would like to know if you guys already have an IPO.
No, so, like I was saying, like the IPO, the goal is to IPO. That's what you asked, right? Like IPO. The goal is to IPO, but it's still early. Usually, there's phases in the company, and it's actually this is how I see Talkdesk and any company. There's different phases, and you have like the first phase, and first phase is when you have 5, 10 people, and you just figure out. Everyone does everything. You do engineering, you do sales, you do customer support, you do everything. That's the first phase, and you have a lot of individual contributors. Then you go to the second phase, and that's when the company becomes a real company, let's say, and that's when you start hiring your first managers, your first level of lieutenants, let's say. And then phase 3, and I'll tell you why this is important. Phase 3 is when you add leaders, and that's when you actually need people to lead. Because right now, you have 1 person or 2 people that start the company, then you have 30, 40 people in the company. Those 2 people are not enough, so you need to hire leaders. The fourth phase, or phase 4, is actually one of the most difficult phases in starting a company, is when you have to hire leaders of leaders. And this is when you actually have to hire people that can lead other leaders. And that seems very easy. It's not. It's very, very difficult because everyone has their egos. And I'm saying this because on phase 4, when you actually nail phase 4, it's actually after this that you go IPO. And this phase 4 means having all the areas in the company with a leader plus 3 or 4 strong leaders under them, engineering, sales, marketing, etc. And this is the phase where we are now. We are now building that infrastructure, hiring leaders of leaders. So in a couple of years, hopefully this will be done, and then we can IPO. But again, IPO is an end. Can be an IPO. It might not be an IPO, but right now, that's a good goal.
To have an IPO then?
Yeah, that's the goal. To ring the bell. We actually have that joke in San Francisco that when things are bad, because things sometimes are bad. Don't get me wrong. Things sometimes are bad. I receive text and say, "Don't worry, boss. We're going to ring the bell." So. It's a goal we have, and everyone we hire, especially that work very close to me, that's the goal. And sometimes, like at night on a Thursday or Friday, 8, 9 p.m., we sit in the office drinking a bottle of wine and thinking about all the things we want to accomplish. And it's fun, it's fun working for something.
So, hello, congratulations as well. So what's the value of the company now? Can you share that?
Oh.
And I have a second question. It's just a curiosity. Why did you start as an American company and not a Portuguese company? Thank you.
Okay, so the value of the company, it's on the hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not a unicorn like people say. It's not a billion-dollar company, but it's pretty high at this point. But more importantly, it's how much we've grown. So in 1 year, the value of the company increased 10 times. And all these fundraisers we've done, they've increased the valuation. Each one increased 10 times the valuation of the company. One increased 5, and the other increased double. So increased 10 times. It's around that. Second one, why it started in America? Well, that's, I was there when Talkdesk started, and it's just so much easier. I don't have a lot of experience in starting companies in Portugal, like legally, but in America it's just so easy. Like you send an email to a lawyer, the lawyer tells you it's $1,000, and the next moment you have the company incorporated. It just makes so much sense. And it wasn't, and for another thing, like for investors, it's much easier for them to invest in American companies than invest in all over the world companies. So if you want to receive money from Silicon Valley, the odds of you getting it being a Portuguese company, it's not impossible, by the way. It's not impossible. Nothing is impossible, but it's much harder. because they don't know the laws, they don't know what's going to happen with the money. Because think about it, like when they gave me the $450,000, look, I was 24 years old. You know, I could just run with the money and that will be fine, you know? Like, so at least by having an American company, they think they can control you a little better, which in fact they really can't, but that's the reason.
A little bit more personal. Do you think you got into a point that you said, okay, that's it, I'm a millionaire, I just want to stop, enjoy my family, enjoy my life, I'm going to hire my replacement and just going to give him all the responsibility and I'm just going to enjoy? Do you think you already reached this spot or you passed this spot? Do you think one day you're going to do it? And I mean, it's a very personal thing.
It's funny, like sometimes I think it would be so easy for someone to come in and build Talkdesk and make me so much money, right? Like life will be so easy. But no, look, I'm 29 years old. Like, imagine if I sell Talkdesk now, what am I going to do the rest of my life? You know, like it's not really about the money, and you'll realize that. Like, it's not really about the money. When you're doing something like Talkdesk, you know, money is important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not pretending money is not important, but it's so much more than that. You know, it's something. It's actually, especially when you live in Silicon Valley, you have like this feeling that you want to be better than all the others. And if you look around, everyone is better than you. Look, Talkdesk is a great company, don't get me wrong, but you look around Silicon Valley, you go to our window, and there's Salesforce, there's Box, there's Dropbox. So you want to actually compete with those companies. So no, I haven't considered doing that. At some point in the future, who knows, but it's not about the money. It's really not about the money. It's about building a company that people talk about, building something great, have fun. It's not about the money.
Okay, so first of all, congratulations also. So you were at some point a IST student, so now you are making a lot of money. So so you told us how that happened, but
Talkdesk makes a lot of money, not me
well,
personally. Don't get me
transitively
wrong.
you'll make a lot of money. Anyway, doesn't matter. So what I really want to ask is, what do you think that IST gave you, and what do you think that IST did not give you in all this process? So what did you have to learn that were not in your, let's say, academic skills?
Oh, so I think like, by the way, I only studied here. I didn't study anywhere else, so I can't really make a comparison. But I think like the best thing we take from this degree is not how much we learn how to program or code, or how much we learn about building an antenna or set up a router, or even though that's helpful, sometimes that's helpful, but that's not what you learn. What you really learn is a way of thinking that you can use anywhere you want. So with this degree, you can actually take everything you've learned in like during these 5 years and go apply this anywhere. Like the most successful people are actually people, if you go from engineering to finance, and I've done that. I was at Procter. When I was at Procter, I was in finance. I was not even in engineering. But bringing this way of thinking that we all have by studying here, it just changes things. People are not used to it. You know, like if you bring your way of thinking again to any area, being starting a company, investment banking, finance, marketing, you'll do amazing stuff. And I can tell you, look, I really love engineers. Like our VP of marketing is an engineer. Our director of product is an engineer. Our director of engineering, hopefully she's an engineer. So she's an engineer as well. No, it's funny. Let me tell you this story. So our director of engineering is called Milena, and she's in the US, and she was working for the CIA before. She was Russian working for the CIA, which is and the interview, I was like, okay, Milena, can you tell me what you've done in your past job? And she's like, no, I cannot. It's a secret. And I'm like, okay, you are hired. And then, no, anyway. But yeah, you can. It's the way of a way of thinking that you can use you can apply anywhere you want. And you realize that, like, when you leave the university, you'll realize you don't know as much as you think. Believe me, when I left college, I thought I knew everything. Like, you know, like you are super prepared to start a company. You are not. You are prepared to actually figure out things, and you are prepared to actually see a problem and be able to solve the problem. And then everything else, you just need to learn while you are there. You know, I hope that answers your question. So you just want me to tell you how to make a lot of money, right?
No.
That's what you want to know.
No. I'm a professor here, so I just teach for fun. So, but the thing is, how did you found, how did you get the skills that were missing? So it's just the 500 startups that basically you just got pretty much everything there, or?
So one thing I used to do, and that's a good question. One thing I used to do while I was in college, I don't know if I can say that, but I didn't really go to a lot of classes. So I was not the best student in the world. I wasn't. I did okay. I never really failed any class, but I was not amazing at all. And one thing I used to spend my time doing was reading. I used to read a lot. Like if you go to my room now in Lisbon, you'll see like I have books all over the place. And you don't realize how much you are learning when you read those books. And those books are about everything. Finance, sales, marketing. You just read. So you need to be curious and read. You need to watch Discovery Channel. You need to watch all these things that give you a little bit of information. And then 5 years down the line, now running the company, I actually use all this knowledge I have from all this time reading and watching movies. I learned a lot from movies. It's interesting. Like you learn a lot from movies because one thing you don't realize is when you are actually hiring 50 people, 60 people, 70 people, knowing a little bit about everything is a huge advantage. It's not a huge advantage if all you want to do in your life is actually coding. Imagine, if you want to code, you should just nail how to code. Forget everything else. If you actually want to run a company, being a generalist and knowing everything is very important. And the way I've accomplished that was reading books, reading blogs and everything I could find, and talking with a lot of people. That's the number one thing. Like when you want to hire, imagine you want to hire a VP of sales. The way you know how to hire a VP of sales, and I learned this while I was on the job. The way you actually learn is you meet 5 great VP of sales, and then you get a baseline. And look, this is the kind of things I'm looking for the person I'm hiring. And if you do that, the next time will be better, the next time will be better. And you get all this information together, and it allows you to make decisions. But don't get me wrong, like I've made plenty of mistakes, I still do, because most of the things I have no idea what I'm doing. But you still do a lot of mistakes, you just have to get better every time you make a mistake. You just move on and you fix it, and hopefully next time you're not going to make the same mistake. I always say this, but sometimes I make the same mistake over and over again. Yeah.
So hi. Did you have any experience with call centers? I mean, how did you know what you needed to include in Talkdesk when you started for Twilio?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. So, I had no idea. So when Talkdesk started, I remember we were figuring out like what is Talkdesk, because it came out of an idea. We didn't come up with a call center or anything. It was just like you receive a call, you make a call, it connects to all the systems you use, and the information pops up. And I remember, again, I was 24, 25, and I was like, call centers? No. I don't want to be in that business. That's a horrible business. Who wants to be in the call center business? So no, I had no idea how a call center worked. But actually, that gives you an advantage because it allowed us to do things in a certain way that no one else did. Because if you know too much about something, you are stuck with that idea. Knowing too much sometimes is very bad. So because we didn't know anything, we actually built Talkdesk in a way we wanted it to be built. I didn't care how the others worked. I didn't care how Cisco's or Genesis. I've never seen a call center in my life. Even after starting Talkdesk, it took me 2 years to actually see a call center working, So not knowing is very helpful. What you need to do, though, is make sure you talk with enough people to understand what they need. And then you can actually build what they need in a different way. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to be an expert in the domain, but you need to be able to learn very fast while you are actually doing it.
This is more like of curiosity, but how is it like working in San Francisco or Silicon Valley? Like, is it like super competitive, like all these stories we hear, or not really?
San Francisco is pretty amazing. It's a city. It's an interesting city because in the last 5 years, and since I've moved to San Francisco, things have changed. So it's a city like. No matter where you turn, everyone's talking about startups. Everyone's talking about companies. Everyone's talking about Dropbox and Box and Salesforce. So if you like that, you actually feel like you are home. You feel like you belong there. But the best thing of working in Silicon Valley is you become a lot better. Like Talkdesk is, no matter what everyone says, Talkdesk is a much more aggressive company, and we want to do more because we are surrounded by amazing companies around us. And when you have you heard that thing of you are the average of your 5 best friends? So if you get together with 5 friends every single day, you're going to be the average of all of them. So in companies, it's a little bit the same thing. You know, this is all about us pushing more and pushing forward, and by being surrounded by these great companies makes you want to become a great CEO, a great company. So that's the best thing about Silicon Valley. The bad thing is how much things cost. It's crazy to live in Silicon Valley. Like, it's unbelievable. Excuse me, prices, like the rent, since I moved there from the first year to the 4th year, my rent has increased 4 times, 4x the amount of money. So it's expensive. It's a great city. It's a great city. If anyone has a chance, even to spend some time there, it's well worth it. Totally well worth it.
What was the main reason for you to move the tech part of your company to Portugal?
No, we didn't move. We already started here. That was not even an option. But the main reason is, when you start something, you will hire the people around you. And both myself and Christine and Raul, we all studied here. So who do we know? People from here. We didn't know anyone from there. We didn't know anyone from Stanford or MIT. I mean, I knew 0 people. So that was not even an option. Like, we had no option. It was either Portugal or nothing. But it was a great, by the way, if I had to go back and if I had a lot of money, I'll still have done the same thing. But at that point, it was the only option we had.
Yeah, Tiago. It seems like a natural progression for you as a leader, obviously, but do you miss coding?
Like, what?
Do you miss coding?
No. Oh. Sorry, but no. I've been coding since I was 15, actually, but at some point, something triggered my head, and I was like, coding? This is horrible. And by the way, don't stop coding. We need people at code, so keep coding. But no, I don't miss it at all. I don't miss it at 0. Sorry. But I still understand that. So, by the way, that's an advantage. When I said about knowing a little bit of everything, actually, my background being in engineering, probably not a great engineer, or for sure not a great engineer, knowing how to code and understanding actually is helpful on the day-to-day.
Why Ruby?
Why?
Ruby. Why do you use Ruby?
Sorry.
Why do you use Ruby?
Why Ruby? Well, so here's the real story. When we built the first version of Talkdesk, I actually built the first version. Me and Christina built the front end, I built the back end. And we built Talkdesk in Node.js. Or Node.js was a new thing at the time, 5 years ago or 4 years ago. And that was it, Node.js. Why Node.js? Well, why not? And then when we hired Raul knew Ruby. And because my coding was so bad, he was very nice, though. He was like, Tiago, I'm going to rewrite this. Is that OK? I'm like, sure. Do your thing. And we did it in Ruby. And that's it. That's why we use Ruby. That's the reason. There's no other reason at all. You don't like Ruby? Well, but we work in many different languages at this point. So there's room for everyone.
Hi, I was just wondering, in the beginning, were people supportive of you, whether it's friends or family? When you first realized that you had an idea that you could pursue, how did people react to that? Thanks in advance.
So, yeah, that's a good question. So 5 years ago, or 4 years ago, things were not like they are now. Like, now everyone wants to start a startup and a company. It's so fun to start a company. 4 years ago, people actually used to say that I was unemployed. Until Talkdesk was actually known, people were like, okay, you should find a job because it's embarrassing for you living off of your parents, living at home. You should find a job. So it wasn't great, you know? Like, I was very lucky. Like, my parents never stopped me from doing anything, but they didn't understand, you know? Like, no one really understood what I was doing. But in the end, look, if everyone understood, you were doing something wrong, right? Because you are doing something that most people will not be able to do for many reasons. So it's normal that people don't understand. You just need to actually persevere and go for it and risk it and push it. And if that's really what you want to do, you'll find a way to make it happen. Of course, you need to make sure you eat and you don't starve. So having parents that can support you, it's pretty helpful. But it was mixed feelings. Like some people was great. Most people did not agree with it at all. They said I was an embarrassment to my family. Literally, I'm not joking.
Are there any further questions? No. So I want you to give a big round of applause to Tiago.